Your eyes open in the dark. No alarm went off. No phone buzzed against the nightstand. Your body simply decided it was time, and you were awake. For nearly all of human history, this wasn't unusual. This was every single night. Today you fight your bed, you fight the clock, you fight the blue light on your ceiling at 11 at night, wondering why sleep won't come. But your ancestors didn't fight any of this. They didn't own mattresses. They didn't own blankets in the way you think of them. Some didn't even sleep in the same place 2 nights in a row. And yet, by nearly every measure researchers can find, they weren't lying awake, wondering why they couldn't drift off. So how did they actually do it? And what does that gap tell you about the exhausted, wired-up version of sleep you're living through right now? Let's go back not to castles, not to cottages, further than that. Back to the open savanna, roughly 2 million years ago, when your ancestors first started building fires at night. There was no bedroom. There was no door to close. There was a ring of families around a low fire, the sound of the group breathing, and the sky doing all the work a nightlight does for you now. That fire wasn't just for warmth, it was the boundary, beyond its light, predators, cold, uncertainty. Inside its light, every person you loved, all in breathing in small circle. You didn't sleep alone. You physically couldn't. You didn't sleep alone. You physically couldn't. Sleeping alone, unprotected, on open ground was a death sentence. So sleep became something communal, layered, and shared, long before it became something private. This is where the story gets interesting. Because for decades, scientists assumed ancient humans slept in one long, unbroken block, the same 8-hour stretch modern doctors tell you to aim for. Then the research actually caught up with reality. Sleep researcher Jerome Siegel at UCLA led fieldwork studying 3 modern hunter-gatherer and forager societies that still live close to how your ancestors once did. The Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia. His team fitted these communities with small wrist monitors that tracked sleep patterns for weeks at a time. The results surprised almost everyone. See, these groups didn't sleep more than people in industrialized cities. If anything, they slept slightly less, around 6.5 hours a night on average. But here's the twist. They almost never reported insomnia. The word barely existed in their languages. So it wasn't more sleep that made the difference. It was something else entirely. Temperature turned out to be one answer. Siegel's data showed that in every one of these groups, sleep consistently began as the ambient temperature was dropping, not at a fixed clock time, but tracking the natural cooling of the night air. Your body still runs on this exact mechanism. Your core temperature has to drop for melatonin to release properly. The problem is your bedroom doesn't cool the way the savannah once did. Heaters, blankets, and sealed windows all fight against the switch. Your body still expects to flip on its own. Light was the second answer. And it's even more direct. There was no artificial light delaying that internal switch. Just firelight, dim and reddish, doing nothing to block melatonin production the way a screen does. Historian A. Roger Ikirch, who spent years combing through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe, found something else hiding in plain sight. Before artificial lighting became common, most written accounts described 2 distinct sleep periods each night, what people at the time simply called first sleep and second sleep, separated by an hour or more of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night. During that gap, people didn't panic. They didn't check a clock or reach for their phone. They lay in the dark, sometimes talked quietly, sometimes prayed, sometimes just existed in the stillness before drifting back down into the second half of the night. Now picture it fully. Imagine you're lying by that fire. 2 million years ago, or even just 200 years ago before the light bulb existed. You wake somewhere in the middle of the night. There's no glowing rectangle to check. No pressure to fall back asleep in the next 7 minutes or lose your entire schedule tomorrow. You simply exist in the dark for a while. You hear someone shift near you. You hear the fire settle, and eventually, without effort, you sink back down. That's the counterintuitive part researchers kept circling back to. Broken sleep, the very thing modern medicine treats as a disorder, may have been the biologically normal pattern for most of human history. Anthropologist Carol Worthman, who has spent decades studying sleep across dozens of traditional societies, found that flexible, socially embedded sleep, sleeping near others, waking briefly, shifting position, wasn't evidence of a problem. It was the system working exactly as designed. Here's the trap. Somewhere along the way, especially after industrial work schedules demanded a single fixed shift, humans decided broken sleep meant something was wrong with them. It didn't. It meant something was wrong with the environment they'd built. The 8-hour, uninterrupted, silent, solo sleep you've been told is the gold standard isn't ancient at all. It's a fairly recent invention, and your body was never fully briefed on the memo. So what actually helped your ancestors sleep? If it wasn't more hours, and it wasn't perfect silence, it was temperature dropping naturally as the fire dimmed. It was darkness that was actually dark, without a screen undoing it at the last second. It was the low, steady presence of other bodies nearby, which lowered anxiety enough that a brief waking in the night never spiraled into worry. And it was the complete absence of guilt about that waking. No one lay there calculating how many hours of sleep they'd lose. There was only the fire, the dark, and the people around you. Now look at your own night. The room is too warm, because the thermostat never drops the way outdoor air once did. The light from your phone is telling your brain it's still daytime, long after the sunset. And when you wake at 3 in the morning, instead of settling into that same quiet stillness your ancestors knew, you reach for a device that floods you with light and stress. Then blame yourself for the aged in 2 million years. It still expects a cooling room, a truly dark sky, and permission to rest without judgment. Almost none of that exists in the average bedroom tonight. You don't need a fire circle or a shared cave to fix this, but you might start by asking yourself something simpler. Somewhere between the campfire and the bedroom, sleep stopped being something your body was allowed to do naturally and became something you have to manage, optimize, and fight for. And the moment you close your eyes tonight, no alarm will be waiting to interrupt you. But something else will. The light from a screen your ancestors never had to fight, still burning in your hand.